What's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. It's just Ty tonight. That's right. And I know you're thinking, well, this isn't Cam. It's a Wednesday episode. It should be Cam. Or where's Lucas at? What? Ty is hosting tonight? I am on the rare off night. Your boy is hosting and flying solo tonight. We got a week 8 preview in store for you, and first gotta shamelessly plug all of our social media accounts where you can find us all: TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find us under the name Fantasy Football Fellas. Hey, and if you're watching on YouTube right now, howdy. You should go subscribe. Even if you're not watching on YouTube, go subscribe. Drop a like on the video for us. If you have gotten to this part, drop a like for Ty. And turn on that bell for notifications when we go live every now and then. And when we post videos, you will be notified accordingly. Instagram, you can find us over on Instagram, at the FF Fellas. On Twitter, you can find us at FF Fellas. And here's the other thing. We have a Chalkboard page, okay? And if you don't know what Chalkboard is, you know what Discord is. So take Discord, but make it sports. That's Chalkboard. Go join our community over on Chalkboard. We are giving you league-winning tips every single day, from waiver wire ads to trade advice to starts and sits to weekly rankings to player props to DFS plays. Everything you need to be a league winner is over on our Chalkboard page. It is completely free. It's in the link of every bio on every social page that we have. So go check it out. Go join the community. Become a league winner. Join the Chalkboard. All right. So we got a full show. We'll get some news and notes. We'll preview week 8. And that's really about it. But before we do any of that, we traditionally do buy low, sell high candidates on Wednesday episodes. And I will fully admit, I've only got one player for this segment. And it's a buy low. I have no sell high. Because last week was just such a weird week. There was not one performance that stood out to me where I said, you know what, should sell high. I thought about Tyler Boyd, and I said, you know what? I don't know. Tyler Boyd has these games every now and then, but I don't know if anyone's going to actually buy into Tyler Boyd for what you would try to sell him at after his wide receiver 2 performance this past week. So that being said, I don't have a sell high candidate. There will be one next week. There will. We will come back to normalcy in football this week in week 8. So we will have a sell high then. But for now, the buy low candidate, the one buy low candidate is Mr. Kareem Hunt. Okay. And it has not been pretty for Kareem Hunt so far this year. The usage, the touches are way down. And this argument for Kareem Hunt is really just with it. It connects with all the noise currently out there that Kareem Hunt's going to get traded from Cleveland. All signs point to it. It feels inevitable. Some people in the Cleveland area are tweeting. It feels like Kareem Hunt is going to have a new home before the trade deadline next Tuesday. Here are the teams that have been linked. And when I say linked, it's really just, connecting things and other people kind of reporting and whatnot. Because there really hasn't been any official report saying this team has, called or talked to Cleveland about Kareem Hunt. But we can deduce a little bit because CMC just got traded last week. And there were a whole bunch of teams in on CMC. He ended up going to San Francisco, so San Francisco was in it, but the Rams were also involved. The Eagles were also involved. And Buffalo had always been connected to Christian McCaffrey. And I know that Kareem Hunt is not Christian McCaffrey, but if those teams are in the market for a running back, why does that change for Kareem Hunt? So this whole buy low argument really revolves around a change of scenery for Kareem Hunt. And now here are 4 teams, right? I mean, we mentioned 3, Philadelphia, the Rams, and Buffalo, that were in on McCaffrey. You would think they would be in on Kareem Hunt, and the other team, Kansas City. Let's just throw that one out there. 3 of the 4 teams there, Kansas City, Los Angeles, and Buffalo, he becomes the lead back. That is so unique, rare, borderline league winning. Okay? This is why you need to go get Kareem Hunt, because if he gets traded to one of those teams, he becomes lead back, becomes a league winner, because you know the talent of Kareem Hunt. For Philly will still use a timeshare. He may be primary back, he may get bulk, but they will still mix in Miles Sanders a little bit. All that to be said, a change of scenery is going to be the best thing for Kareem Hunt, even if it is to another timeshare in Philadelphia, because he's going to get touches. In Cleveland, he's just not getting enough touches. So, that being said, go buy low on Kareem Hunt, right? A trade is inevitable. A trade will happen. I shouldn't say will happen. It is most likely to happen. If he gets traded to one of the 4 places I mentioned, he instantly jumps into the top 20 conversation, can even push into top 15. So, buy low, Kareem Hunt. And again, no sell high this week. It was just too weird of a week in week 7. So, that being said, let's move on to news and notes brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper. We love Sleeper. We have said this before, and we can't sing enough praises of Sleeper. We do all of our leagues over on Sleeper. Sleeper is the all-you-need tool for a fantasy player. You get news updates. You can do mock drafts. You can do all the sorts over on Sleeper, and Sleeper is releasing even new and cool feature. Let me rephrase that. They are releasing new and cool features as you know, as we speak. We enjoy the over-unders that they have. They are starting daily drafts. Oh, did I say that? I shouldn't have said that. The secret's out. Go join Sleeper. It's the number 1 fantasy platform in the world with over 4 million users, and you can check them out with the link in the description of this video. And again, we love Sleeper. We can't sing enough praises about them. So, news and notes. All right, we're going to start off probably with the most repulsing news headline. Sounds like Russell Wilson is going to play on Sunday. And Mr. Unlimited apparently worked out on a plane while the team was flying from Denver to London. This team is in shambles. It doesn't matter if Russ is coming back or not. This team is in shambles. And really, I don't care if Russell Wilson is ready to go for Sunday. You can't play him. You can't. You just can't. So, that's that. That's out of the way. Thank goodness. Elijah Moore returned to practice for the Jets. This is kind of in part due to Corey Davis picking up a knee injury that he picked up in the first half on Sunday, and he left the game. So if Corey Davis misses this coming Sunday, Elijah Moore needs to kind of step up and kind of play a little bit. This doesn't really impact the situation for the Jets, though. They're going up against New England, and with Zach Wilson, Zach Wilson hasn't proven anything for me to actually say like start Elijah Moore or start Garrett Wilson with confidence at all. They traded for James Robinson. That's the other important news piece for the Jets. The Jets went out and traded for James Robinson. I don't know how much of a workload that they give James Robinson in the first week in a Jets uniform. And on top of that, it's Bill Belichick, who just got embarrassed by Chicago on Monday Night Football. I'm not going to sit here and say Patriots by a million because we all said that against the Bears. But this just feels like all signs point to New England in that game. So for the Jets, you got to really be cautionary with the options in fantasy football. Mac Jones, speaking of the Patriots, Mac Jones will start in week 8. That's the report at this moment. I really don't I will admit, I really don't understand the appeal to Bailey Zappi. I know that he's been winning, but Mac Jones was doing just fine. I know that this year it hasn't been anything like last year, but there are growing pains. Okay, Bailey Zappi he's been active with this coaching system the entire year and has not been injured, right? So Zappi's getting playing time. Mac Jones is hurt. Why are people so quick to give up on Mac Jones? That's my question. I think that's essentially what I'm trying to say. Why are people so quick to give up on Mac Jones? Everyone was saying that Mac Jones was the savior of the Patriots franchise last year. And it's flipped on its head. You've got fans chanting Zappi in the game. I don't understand it. I'm glad that Mac Jones is getting the start this week because it's deserved isn't the right word. But it's the right call. It's the right call. On to more news. Jameis Winston is healthy, but Andy Dalton is still the starter regardless. Cool. I don't know how much changes with Jameis Winston if he did play. So you know what you expect. You know what you get with Andy Dalton under center for the Saints. Not a whole lot. Mike Williams is expected to miss a minimum of 4 weeks due to his ankle injury. And that and Lucas, mentioned it on Tuesday's episode. This just breaks our heart because he was making us look really, really smart, really, really good. And now he misses significant amount of time. And I said this in the waiver video, but if Josh Palmer is available in your league, you have to go get him. He now steps in as a wide receiver 2 in this offense. And even Keenan Allen is still recovering from his hamstring stuff. Granted, Keenan Allen, when he's going to be fully healthy, will still be the wide receiver 1. All that, I'm just saying that to just say Palmer has a really good shot of getting some serious work in this offense. Matt Eberflus came out and said that the Bears will continue to get Khalil Herbert more involved in the offense, and no dur. He said this last week before the game against New England that they're going to go with a hot hand approach in the backfield. He's basically repeating himself. He's not saying anything new here. Let's go through our list of practice notables. And we've got quite a few teams with players that are worth mentioning. So let's start in New Orleans. Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry did not practice again. And I forgot to mention, I'm recording this Wednesday, October 26th. Okay, so things could have changed by the time you're listening to this. But Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry did not participate in Wednesday's practices. Deebo Samuel did not practice due to a hamstring injury. That is worth monitoring. And if he doesn't go, I'm expecting a ginormous Christian McCaffrey game. For the Dallas Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott apparently is expected to miss week 8. There's nothing confirmed about this. It's really just a report, but apparently Zeke is dealing with a knee sprain, and it's a grade 2 MCL sprain. So the Cowboys would be wise, if that is in case the injury, to rest him this week, give him the bye week 9, let him come back week 10. Give him 2 weeks to just fully recover. That's what they should do. So, again, nothing confirmed about that Zeke injury, but, again, monitor it because we should be hearing something relatively soon. Noah Brown, then, also for the Cowboys, did not practice with a foot injury, and this is news. So if Zeke is out and Noah Brown is out, then it is Dalton Schultz, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Tony Pollard against the Bears. You're starting all of them. For the Seahawks, DK Metcalf did not practice because of his knee, and that was to be expected. Apparently, he's still pushing to go for Sunday. Seattle would not be smart if they played him, but what do I know? I'm just a fantasy football podcaster. So Tyler Lockett was also limited in Wednesday's practice with a hamstring issue, but he's been playing recently, so I'm not really reading into this too much. Derek Carr for the Raiders, he was limited with a back issue. That is worth monitoring. If that back issue doesn't get better, then you kind of have to downgrade Devontae Adams then, but it doesn't really matter when Josh Jacobs is putting up 140 rushing yards in 3 straight games. So Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill should be good for Sunday after a minor ankle sprain. He left the game momentarily, but he came back. He should be good to go. If not, though, then it's Malik Willis. I don't know if you can start Malik Willis if he is the starter. But again, you probably don't need to worry about that because Tannehill should be good to go for Sunday. For the Rams, Darrell Henderson is dealing with an illness, and this illness came up on Wednesday. So he should be good to go for Sunday, but we've seen weirder things happen. Just monitor it. TJ Hawkinson did not practice with a knee issue. He's played through injuries before. He should be just fine for Sunday. Baltimore, Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman, arguably the 2 best weapons or 2 best receivers for Lamar Jackson, could still play tonight when you're hearing this for Thursday Night Football, but they won't be 100%. So that being said, the expectations have to be lowered. But you still have to start Mark Andrews. Rashad Bateman, I don't know. He's got a beat up secondary in Tampa Bay, so there's some optimism and some hopefulness there, but not being 100% on a short week too is gonna be tough. So that's really just a flip of a coin, if I'm honest. For Arizona, James Conner and Darrell Williams are on track to play on Sunday, so sad day for Eno Benjamin owners because, man, that stinks. For Carolina, Chuba Hubbard did not practice with an ankle injury, so monitor that because if you are a Deontay, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Foreman. If Chuba Hubbard doesn't go, Deontay Foreman shoots himself into like running back 2 conversations going up against Atlanta, and nothing more to it than that. So, and then lastly for Green Bay, Alan Lazard did not practice. He was seen actually leaving the game on Sunday with an arm sleeve. That is something to be to pay attention to. Granted, he's been in this offense for a while, so he probably doesn't need a whole lot of practice time to, be good to go for Sunday. But at this point, it's a matter of will the shoulder be good enough to go? And if he's not, then then Buffalo could win by at least 50 because Green Bay would have next to nothing on offense. Alrighty, so that is our news and notes. Again, brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper. You can check them out with the link in the description of this video. We love Sleeper. You should check it out. So, all right, let's dive into our Week 8 preview of NFL football. Starting off with Thursday Night Football, Baltimore at Tampa Bay. Tampa's favored by 1 point. This is a very, very interesting game. You have a really good run defense in Tampa Bay, really good running or rush offense with Baltimore. So how is this game won? It's going to depend on Lamar's arm, and it's going to depend on how let me start that over. If Baltimore wants to win this game, it's going to have to come from Lamar's arm. If Tampa Bay wants to win this game, they've got to get their crap together. Okay, and that's a lot to do on a short week, so you can probably tell by my argument and my tone who I think is going to win this game. But here's the other, finer details of this game. Tampa Bay is not going to have Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting, or Antoine Winfield Jr. That's 3 starters in Tampa's secondary. So you would think it's a big game for Baltimore receivers then, right? Like Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay. I think Devin Duvernay is actually probably he's a borderline flex play this week, just with Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman not being 100%. Tampa Bay is allowing the 6th fewest fantasy points to running back. So if you've got Gus Edwards, you got to really lower expectations. That being said, I'm not really confident really in any starters, for either team. I mean, Lamar, you have to because it's Lamar Jackson. I don't have the greatest confidence in Gus Edwards. Rashad Bateman has not really shown us much, and he's not going. And if he plays, he's not 100%. Mark Andrews, you have to play Mark Andrews still, but he's not going to be 100%. Then you look at Tampa. They can't play offense right now. So like the only starter I would feel confident in is Chris Godwin because he's the target guy for Tom Brady, but do those turn into receptions? I don't know. I just don't know. So Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, you still have to start all the normal guys. The household names, you still have to start them, but they are not guarantees in any capacity this week. And again, just so it's out there, I do think Baltimore wins this game. All right, let's move on to the Sunday slate, and we're going to start off with the London Town game between Denver and Jacksonville. Go ahead and sleep through this game. just go ahead and sleep through this game. You are not going to miss much. This is I'm not going to say 2 bad teams because I think there's potential with Jacksonville. But Jacksonville has not been playing well, and we all know about Denver. Denver's allowing the 2nd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, so you got to really kind of, downgrade Christian Kirk. I don't know. Maybe there's some hope for Christian Kirk being in the slot compared to out wide because that's where Pat Surtain is. But again, Denver has been really, really stingy against wide receivers. Jacksonville, on the other hand, is allowing the 7th most fantasy points to running backs, which you're like, ooh, that's intriguing. But we got to remember it's Denver, okay? Denver's offense can't get going. So, again, I'm not picking a winner in this game because I'm going to be sleeping through this game. Jacksonville is favored by 2.5 points. I still don't want to pick a winner, and I won't. So, all right, we're going to move on to the 12 o'clock games, right, because this is Central Time, and 12 o'clock feels more round than 1 o'clock. So, starting it off, Arizona coming to Minnesota. Minnesota favored by 3.5. Both defenses are much more similar than people think. Both defenses are relatively solid against the run, and their mentality is a bend but don't break. So that means they just give up yards. Sometimes, there are scores every now and then, but there are lots of yards. That's a bend but don't break. They are okay giving up yards. They just don't want you to score. So you fire up the usuals then. Justin Jefferson. You start Adam Thielen this week. You start DeAndre Hopkins. You start Zach Ertz. Running backs, you got to start Dalvin Cook because Dalvin Cook is Dalvin Cook. But you shouldn't be expecting, 100 rushing yards and a touchdown or something like that. James Conner's probably closer to a flex. But again, Minnesota's run defense has been one of the best. I'm going to take Minnesota in that one, but this game could either be super high scoring or super low scoring because like I said, both defenses are very, very similar. Next game, Carolina going to Atlanta, and Atlanta's favored by 4.5. I'm taking Carolina in that game, okay? Carolina looks like a completely different team now with PJ Walker. Feels like they're confident. And yes, Atlanta's been good at home. But people do not give Carolina enough credit at this point. They shut down Tampa. And I know that Tampa's not the same, but still, they shut down Tampa. I don't know. Carolina's run defense has been solid. Atlanta's not throwing the ball. Marcus Mariota has 4 straight games below 150 passing yards. 4 straight games. They just don't pass the ball. So they want to run the ball? Carolina's been decent against the run. I don't know. I don't think that works out in favor of Atlanta. This is a great matchup for DJ Moore. Atlanta's, if I'm not mistaken, Atlanta's giving up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. You beat Atlanta through the air. That's what Cincinnati did last week. DJ Moore could have another solid bounce back game after what we saw through the first couple weeks of the season. Falcon running backs are sits, in my opinion. They're still splitting carries, and there's little to no receiving work going to running backs. So that means that they're touchdown dependent. And I'm not going to take, you can start one of them, but I don't know. I can't guarantee you that running back, whether that's Tyler Algier or Caleb Huntley, I can't guarantee you that they find the end zone. So that's why I have them on the bench this week. And again, I think Carolina sneaks that one out. Chicago at Dallas is the next game I've got up here. Dallas is favored by 9.5. And yes, Chicago just upset New England. Woohoo! Another tough game on the road against a relatively better offense in Dallas. I think the thing worth noting for Chicago is that they finally are getting into this offense that Fields can thrive in, where it utilizes the run options, it utilizes designed runs for Justin Fields, utilizes more short game than anything. This offense is becoming much more friendlier to Justin Fields. That being said, though, they're going up against the number 1 fantasy defense in Dallas. And Dallas is really, really flipping good on defense. The Bears are allowing the 9th most fantasy points and 6th most rushing yards to running backs. So it's a bummer that Zeke will miss his game, because if he was active and healthy, this is a great game for Zeke. But if he does miss his game, Tony Pollard instantly becomes a running back 1, in my opinion, because there's no one else there to take work from him. There's no one. Tony Pollard could very well boom this week. So again, I take Dallas in this game. Miami at Detroit, in what could be the highest scoring game of the week. Miami's favored by 3.5 going to Detroit. Here's the thing with Miami. Not only do they look like a different team with Tua, and when I say different, I mean like more confident, but their defense is the question mark. They are solid-ish against the run, they are awful against the pass, which kind of plays into the hands of Detroit a little bit. Even though Detroit does like to establish the run a little bit, they are not afraid to just kind of take what you give them, and if that's yards through the air, they'll take it. Detroit's defense needs no explanation. Everyone knows that they are Swiss cheese currently. So Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, are gonna have a great week. I'm gonna take Miami in that one. I think Miami's defense can make one or two more stops than Detroit's can, and that's why Miami comes out on top. So we go now to New Orleans, and New Orleans is hosting the Vegas Raiders. Vegas is favored by 1.5. Here's the thing. This New Orleans team is also struggling mightily. They are not really stopping anyone on the run, and they're giving up a ton of fantasy points to wide receivers. Vegas is very similar, though. So it's just a matter of which team do I think is more hot right now, and in my opinion, it's Vegas. It's Vegas. On the back of Josh Jacobs. Quite literally. I mean, the only players that you're starting on your fantasy teams between these two teams, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Devontae Adams, and Josh Jacobs. Who knows if Darren Waller plays, and if he does, I don't really have a whole lot of confidence because he hasn't really been that much of a factor in the offense so far this year. Same thing with Hunter Renfrow. And for the Saints, again, like Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry are not practicing still. So Marquez Callaway, no. Traquan Smith, no. Deontay Hardy, no. I'm not starting Jawan Johnson either. I mean, there's only 4 players that I'm starting in this game. I don't think Josh Jacobs continues his 140-yard rushing yard streak, but I do think he does put up enough yards to kind of carry Vegas to a victory. But that can definitely change if Derek Carr's back injury worsens throughout the week, and if that's the case, then I go New Orleans. Next game we got is New England going to New Jersey to face the Jets, and that, yes, I know it's New York. They play New Jersey. It's not a secret. So New England is favored by 2.5 in this game, and I like that a lot. The Patriots just need to get right game after Monday Night Football, after that disaster on Monday night. And what better to do that than against the Jets? Get a game back in the division, if not 2, just because it's a twofer, right? You win against a division and your division loses. This feels like a Patriots game. But the only thing is, when it comes to fantasy, though, the only Patriots players that you're starting this week are Ramondre Stevenson and Jacoby Myers. And even Jacoby Myers, I don't feel confident about because he draws Sauce Gardner. And if you haven't noticed, Sauce Gardner is quickly turning himself into one of the premier corners in the league. So I don't know. I'm not super excited if I'm starting Jacoby Myers, just because of the matchup alone. I mentioned this earlier, when I talked about Elijah Moore and Corey Davis and stuff. I've got little to no confidence in Jets players this week. Patriots are always good against the run. And we don't know what the workload looks like for the running backs with the Jets, right? With James Robinson now and Michael Carter going up against the Patriots. I struggled to start either. And the wide receivers, I can't start until Zach Wilson shows me he's actually a quarterback. I mean, I'm going to say it right now. Zach Wilson is I don't want to knock the guy too much, okay? He just doesn't look the part, okay? He just doesn't look the part already, and that's scary because you use a number 2 pick on him. So maybe Now they start kind of letting Zach Wilson turn it loose a little bit, but when he has done that in the past, it's never been great. So I don't know. Again, I got little to no confidence in Jets players this week. Only player I've got like absolute confidence on is Ramondre Stevenson. And who has been, if I'm not mistaken, he's currently the running back 8 on the year. Yeah, he's the running back 8 on the year. Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson's the only guy that you're like confident in starting in this game. And so give me New England over the Jets in that one. Last of the noon games, we got Pittsburgh traveling to Philadelphia. So the Battle of Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is favored by 11. Wow. This feels like, I mean, if you're a betting person, this line screams take the under, or take Pittsburgh plus 11. That's what that line says to me. Take the plus 11. Take the points. But that's why I'm not a betting man, because it's things like that line that just makes it difficult, and I would avoid it. I do think Philadelphia wins this game. I'm not sure by how much. I'm not sure by how much. In this game, though, you're starting all Philadelphia pass catchers: A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Pittsburgh is not slowing anyone down through the air. I mean, they slowed Tampa down, but I know we mentioned Tampa earlier. The only playable Steeler, in my opinion, in this game is Najee Harris. That says something, because Najee Harris is, as everyone knows, Najee Harris has not been the Najee Harris of last year this year. So you're playing him with a flex expectation, but for the wide receivers, I don't know. Deontay Johnson still gets targets, but they're not necessarily receptions. George Pickens has been productive, but he's going to line up outside against Darius Slay and James Bradbury, and same with Chase Claypool. Those are tough matchups. So I don't know if I can really start any Pittsburgh wide receiver. It's just not. I just don't see a whole lot of opportunity for the Steeler wideouts this week. So again, Philadelphia, you're starting the usual. You're starting Jalen Hurts, starting Miles Sanders, you're starting A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. You're starting all of them. Steelers, I'm only starting Najee Harris, and it's more of a flex than anything else. So, Philly in that one, that one seems pretty straightforward. On to the afternoon slate of games, starting off with Tennessee going to Houston. Here's something I didn't realize. This is Houston's third home game of the year. This is only their third. And we've gone through 7 weeks of football, and this is their third home game. So you're telling me before this week, through 7 weeks, they've had 5 road games, 2 at home. Whoever the schedule person is did not look favorably upon Houston. But back to the actual game. This game is going to set the NFL back by at least 30 years. Just because these two teams just run the ball so much. Derrick Henry for Tennessee, Dameon Pierce for Houston. That's all this game is going to do. They're just going to run the ball. You're still playing Dameon Pierce because you got to. Brandon Cooks is a flex. Tennessee's secondary is not known to be the greatest, but you can't expect a whole lot with Davis Mills under center for Houston. Tennessee, on the other hand, you can maybe consider Robert Woods, but I'm not. I wouldn't be too optimistic on Robert Woods just with Tannehill's injury and Houston's defense just, being so abysmal in the run. Derrick Henry could have his RB1 week in this game because it just makes sense. So Give me Tennessee in that one. And Tennessee's favor, or I think the line, what is it? 2 points for Tennessee? Tennessee -2 on that one. Next afternoon game, we've got Washington traveling to Indianapolis in the Carson Wentz game. That does not include Carson Wentz. Indianapolis is somehow favored by 3 in this game. I don't know how. Here's all that you need to know about this game. It is Sam Ehlinger versus Taylor Heineke. Yeah. Not pretty. Washington wideouts. I don't know who you can start this week. Indy has been very, very good against wide receivers this year. I don't know who you can start. I don't know if you should start either of them. But what I do know is that you should start Brian Robinson. And here comes a bit of a bold take. But I think Brian Robinson is a better play this week than Najee Harris. And not just because, and that's partly because of, how Najee Harris has played this year. But Brian Robinson is slowly becoming the running back 1 in this offense. And I know they gave some work to Antonio Gibson, but I think in this game, Washington can get out kind of quick because Indianapolis just does not have the greatest run defense. I think the only other player worth starting in this game is Michael Pittman because he's the wide receiver 1 on the Colts, and Sam Ehlinger has to throw the ball to somebody. That being said, though, it's not going to be pretty. So, give me Washington in that game. I don't know how Indy is favored by 3. I just think Washington beating Green Bay last week is fairly impressive. And because let's be real, I don't think many people give Washington a shot against Green Bay, and maybe it's an indictment more on how bad Green Bay has been more than how better Washington played. But again, there's nothing about the Colts so far. Yes, Jonathan Taylor's there, so maybe he has a big game, but I don't know. Yeah, and I'm going to retract my words a little bit because I know I mentioned the only other player worth starting, I think it was kind of implied that you start Jonathan Taylor. So, to probably the game of the week. For me, at least, the game of the week. San Francisco going to SoFi Stadium to take on the Rams. San Francisco favored by 1.5. Regardless of Deebo Samuel's status for Sunday, I think San Francisco wins this game. If Deebo plays, the Rams defense is going to be so scrambled between Ayuk, Kittle, Deebo, and CMC now. And if Deebo doesn't play, then I'm kind of expecting Christian McCaffrey to kind of go nuts in this game. And it'll be a traditional kind of Christian McCaffrey type of afternoon, right, where he's going to put up 50, 60 rushing yards, but he's going to get 8 or 9 receptions and 80 yards receiving. That a true and classic Christian McCaffrey game of old. So, for the Rams, again, you're starting Cooper Kupp. I don't think you can start Stafford. I wouldn't start Darrell Henderson. Wouldn't start Allen Robinson. I would maybe throw Higbee in there, but I'm not super confident in it. And I said for the Niners, I mean, Jimmy might be an intriguing streaming option, but again, the Rams can get after the quarterback a little bit, so Jimmy wouldn't be my favorite streaming option this week, but I could understand it. You're playing Christian McCaffrey. You're playing Deebo if he plays. You're playing Ayuk, and you're playing Kittle. It's pretty straightforward. And like I said, San Francisco over the Rams in that one. And now, probably for the game that everyone's probably going to be talking about the most, it's the Giants and the Seahawks. The battle of arguably the two biggest surprises of the year. Seattle's favored by 3 in this game. And when I first looked at that line, I was like, really? Really? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, actually, it kind of makes sense. Because Seattle's allowing the 5th most running back, or 5th most famous points to running back. So you're like, wait, isn't that pro New York Giants? Absolutely is. Like, go Saquon Barkley this week. But the Giants are allowing the 3rd most rushing yards, and Seattle, since starting Kenneth Walker, have just run over teams. Quite literally. They've just run over teams. I don't expect that to change. The Giants' rush defense is not the greatest. This kind of plays into the strengths of Seattle a little bit. DK Metcalf shouldn't play this week. If he does, we'll talk about it on Saturday. So tune in to Saturday's episode to find out what you should do about DK Metcalf, because we will also know his status a little bit more on Saturday's episode. But Tyler Lockett, I think for this game, you put him as a flex, because if DK Metcalf doesn't play, then it's Tyler Lockett and Marquise Goodwin. But the Giants have been relatively stout against wide receivers this year. So, you know a stealing with Tyler Lockett can be upwards of 25, right? Because that's just what Tyler Lockett does. But you know Tyler Lockett's floor as well can be single digits, if not 10, 11 points. So you still start Lockett, but he's more of a flex than a kind of lock in at number as your wide receiver too. In that game, I'm going to go Seattle. It is at Seattle. I don't know. It feels weird because I know I've said in the past, like, we got to start taking the Giants seriously. But we got to take Seattle seriously too here. Give me Seattle in that one. On to Sunday Night Football now. Green Bay versus Buffalo. This is the prototypical. The schedule maker is putting together the schedule at the beginning of the season and says, oh, Green Bay Buffalo. That would be a great Sunday night primetime football game. And Green Bay said, hold my beer. Sorry. Dumb joke. Buffalo is going to win by 20 in this game. They will. Buffalo's favored by 11.5 in this game. Again, they want you to take the points. Say Green Bay plus 11.5, but we all know better. Buffalo's going to win by like 20 in this game. For Green Bay, you can't start anyone besides Aaron Jones. Depending on Allen Lazard, if Allen Lazard is healthy, then sure. But I'm not expecting a whole lot from Allen Lazard then. Aaron Jones only just because you have to. Because he's the only guy. Yes, and I should also, state the implied. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Y'all ever get that like sneeze attack sometimes? Sorry about that. All right. Again, let me state the implied. You're not playing Rodgers in this game. For the Bills, Josh Allen starting. Devin Singletary. Yes, you are starting Devin Singletary. I think I see Devin Singletary as a running back too. He is also a better play than Najee Harris this week. Just for context. Green Bay is allowing the 2nd most rushing yards on the season. So that plays really well for Devin Singletary. You're starting Diggs. You start Gabe Davis. Dawson Knox has been getting a little more involved. I wouldn't start him just yet, though. I need to see another week of it. And like I said, Green Bay is going to get smoked in this game. And everyone can say, well, yeah, it's a bounce back game. And this is when everyone, this is the game that you count Rodgers out and Rodgers comes in and proves it wrong, or proves you all wrong. Not this time. Buffalo's too good. Prime time at Buffalo. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. And if it does, then tweet me. Then go tweet me at Tyler_Plath. Tweet at me. Call me a fool. Okay. I will hold that L because I just don't think it'll happen. Last game of the week, Monday Night Football between Cincinnati and Cleveland. Cincinnati is favored by 3. And here's the thing. Cleveland had Cincinnati's number last year. They beat them twice last year. And everyone's going to say, well, Week 18 didn't really count because Cincinnati didn't play their starters. I don't care. Cleveland still beat Cincinnati. That's just what happened. But this is a completely different Cleveland team than last year. And Cincinnati is kind of finding their groove, and they're starting to look like the Cincinnati of last year. They're really hard to beat. They've got if I'm not mistaken, they still have a top 5 defense on the year so far. This Cincinnati team is starting to hit their stride, and Joe Burrow could legitimately put up another 400-yard week because Cleveland just does not they don't really stop a whole lot of people through the air. You fire up the usual Cincinnati players, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I'd maybe consider Tyler Boyd as a flex in deeper leagues, though, and that's the emphasis is on deeper leagues. I'm not forcing Tyler Boyd into my starting lineup this week. For Cleveland, though, I'm benching Amari Cooper this week. I'm benching Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm benching Kareem Hunt. I'm benching Jacoby Brissett. The only player I'm playing is Nick Chubb because that's how this offense plays. But you've got to lower the expectations because, again, Cincinnati's defense has shut down the run all year long. All year long. So, give you Cincinnati in that one. Yes, Cleveland had their number last year, but Cincinnati is looking really, really good, and Cleveland is not Cleveland of last year. So, all right, let's recap all those games and all those predictions real quick. That was a Week 8 preview. Let's recap real quick. I got Tampa Bay losing to Baltimore, so Baltimore over Tampa for tonight's game when you're hearing this, Thursday Night Football. For the Sunday games, starting in the London game, I am taking Jacksonville over Denver. Even though I don't like picking that game, I think Jacksonville does win that just because Denver is so awful right now. I have Minnesota over Arizona, have Carolina over Atlanta, Dallas over Chicago, Miami over Detroit, Vegas over New Orleans, New England over the Jets, Eagles over the Steelers, Titans going to Houston and beating the Texans, the Commanders going to Indianapolis and beating the Colts, Niners getting the best of the Rams, Seahawks besting the Giants, Bills destroying the Packers, and the Bengals cleaning up shop against the Browns. That wraps up this Week 8 preview episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas. We will be back on Saturday with our start-sit episode. Tune into that. We'll also have some player props that we'll talk about there. And again, let's plug the handles real quick. You can find us anywhere and everywhere. We are there. TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else you get your podcasts. Fantasy Football Fellas. We are there. We are over on Twitter at FFFellas. We are on Instagram at TheFFFellas. My personal handle, Tyler_Plath. Tweet me your start-sit questions. Tweet me whatever kind of fantasy questions you got. I'm happy to answer them. Go ahead and tweet me. You can also tweet Lucas at Lucas Wenzel, and Wenzel rhymes with pencil. I'm trying to remember Cam's. There it is. Cameron, I did not slack on this one. I did not because I remembered your handle at CamLaw317. You can find all of us over on Twitter with those handles. For one Stooge being Ty tonight, flying solo, on behalf of the other Stooges of the Fantasy Football Fellas, we're wrapping up this episode, and we will see you on Saturday for Starts and Sits. Deuces.